I was 10 when I learned how quiet a sentence could be. I wasn't meant to hear it. I was standing outside her bedroom door, my hand lifted to knock, when her voice slipped through the wood. She was a mistake. No anger, no shouting, just exhaustion, the kind of tiredness that sounds honest. Someone in the room murmured something I couldn't make out. She sighed. I wasn't ready. I didn't even want... Her voice faded, but it didn't matter. I had already heard enough. The hallways suddenly felt too narrow, like the walls had shifted while I wasn't looking. My hand dropped to my side. I stared at the door as if it might open and take back the words. It didn't. I walked back to my room without making a sound, sat on my bed, lay down, stared at the ceiling. I didn't cry. I think part of me believed crying would prove her right. Too much, too needy. A mistake. The word moved into my chest and settled there. That night, something rearranged itself inside me. I decided it would be easy, quiet, good. I would fold my wants into small corners. I would bring home perfect grades. I would never ask for seconds or hugs. If I made a mistake, then I would at least become a useful one. My mother wasn't cruel in a way anyone could point to. She didn't scream, she didn't hit, she just withheld. Warmth mostly, approval, the small softness that other girls seem to take for granted. I learned her moods the way other teenagers learned song lyrics. The tightness in her jaw meant she kept silent at dinner. The way she set her keys down too carefully meant don't ask for anything tonight. I adjusted myself accordingly. A small laugh, smaller opinions, smaller needs. Maybe if I'm perfect, she'll change her mind. I left my report card on the kitchen counter once. All A's. I pretended to do homework at the table so I could watch her find it. She glanced at it, nodded faintly, and asked if I had taken out the trash. That was it. On my 16th birthday, she forgot. Not cruelly, just completely. I didn't remind her. I told myself it didn't matter. At school, when my friends hugged me and pressed cupcakes into my hands, I smiled too widely. At home, the house felt the same as any other day. I apologized constantly for speaking too loudly, for finishing the milk, for existing in doorways. When she praised my cousin for getting into college early, her voice carried pride so easily. I wondered what I was missing. What invisible flaw still made me temporary? There were no explosive arguments, no scenes, just space, a quiet, steady absence that taught me my place. And slowly, painfully, I understood something. She wasn't going to wake up one morning and decide I was wanted. So I stopped trying to be loved. I started trying to survive. I left home with 2 suitcases and a box of things she never noticed I owned. There wasn't a fight, no dramatic goodbye. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, and said, "Call when you get there." I nodded. I didn't hug her. She didn't reach for me. In the beginning, I still called first. Short updates, new apartment, new job. I kept my voice light, careful, waiting for something. Approval, maybe. Pride. It never came. One night after a promotion I had worked myself to exhaustion for, I stared at my phone. My thumb hovered over her name. I imagined her response already. That's good. Maybe a distracted pause, then a subject change. I put the phone down. That was the night something unclenched inside me. I stopped calling first, not to punish her, just to see what would happen. Weeks passed. Then months. The silence stretched, thin but survivable. In therapy, something I told almost no one about, I said her name out loud without shaking. I started untangling the sentence that had followed me since childhood. Mistake. I examined it as it belonged to someone else. Instead of asking, "Why doesn't she love me?" I found myself asking, "Why am I still trying to earn it?" The question felt heavier, but cleaner. I worked. I built routines that had nothing to do with her moods. I chose friends who spoke gently. I decorated my apartment in colors she would have called impractical. I was still sad sometimes. That doesn't disappear overnight, but the sadness stopped defining me. One quiet afternoon, sitting alone at my kitchen table, I understood something simple and terrifying. I no longer needed her validation to exist. It rang on a Tuesday evening while I was folding laundry. Her name on my screen felt unfamiliar. We hadn't spoken in almost a year. For a second, I just watched it buzz. Then I answered. Her voice was thinner than I remembered, not sharp, not steady. There was a pause before she said my name, like she was testing whether she still had the right to it. I hope I'm not interrupting. She had never asked that before. I leaned against the counter and said, calmly, "No, what's going on?" Another pause, a breath that sounded heavier than it should have been. She mentioned bills, something about unexpected expenses, a medical issue she brushed past too quickly. I could hear the effort in her tone, the carefulness, the way pride was fighting with necessity. Years ago, I would have panicked. I would have rushed to reassure her, to fix it, to finally be chosen. Instead, I listened. "How much are we talking about?" I asked. "Have you spoken to anyone else? What are your options?" My voice stayed even, practical, almost professional. She stumbled a little over her answers. I could feel her confusion through the line. This wasn't the soft, eager daughter she remembered. I wasn't scrambling for approval. I wasn't offering comfort she hadn't earned. Old pain stirred in my chest, a flicker of the hallway, the word mistake, but it didn't take over. Her voice lowered, almost breaking. "I don't know who else to call." And in the quiet space between us, I thought, now you do. It's a strange thing being needed by the person who made you feel optional. I sat at my kitchen table long after the call ended, my phone face down in front of me. The room was quiet, but my chest wasn't. Not exactly heavy, just aware. For years, I had imagined this moment differently. I thought that if she ever needed me, I would feel powerful, vindicated. Instead, I felt steady. I never thought I'd speak about this out loud, but if you're still listening, maybe you understand what it's like to grow up feeling like an extra chair at the table, present, useful, but not chosen. Something is unsettling about becoming the stable one, the reliable one, when you spent your childhood trying to prove you deserved to stay. Part of me wanted to ignore her, let the silence answer for me, but another part, the part that had done the work, that had untangled itself from that word, knew this wasn't about revenge yet. It was about clarity. So when she texted the next morning asking if we could meet, I didn't hesitate. Not out of love, out of closure. I saw her before she saw me. She was sitting near the window of the cafe, hands wrapped around a cup she wasn't drinking. Her shoulders looked narrower, her hair thinner. For a moment I felt disoriented. She looked human, not towering, not untouchable, just older. When she noticed me, she stood too quickly and gave a small, uncertain smile. We didn't hug. We sat across from each other like acquaintances negotiating something delicate. Up close, I could see the faint tremor in her fingers. She avoided my eyes at first, focusing instead on the table, the napkin, the steam rising between us. "I didn't know who else to ask," she said again, softer this time. There was no dramatic apology, no tears, just discomfort, the awkwardness of someone who isn't used to needing help. I listened, really listened, not as a daughter starving for approval, but as a woman evaluating a situation. Inside me, I expected anger to rise. It didn't. What I felt instead was distance, a strange, almost clinical calm. And under that, grief. Grief for the mother I used to imagine, the one who would have braided my hair, remembered my birthday without reminders, and looked at my report card with pride. She wasn't that woman. Maybe she had never been. Across the table, she looked smaller than I remembered, not cruel, not powerful, just flawed, possibly scared. The power had shifted quietly, without announcement. I had built something steady. She was the one reaching now. After a long pause, her voice thinned. I was not ready to be a mother. I held her gaze, and I didn't rush to comfort her. I didn't answer her right away. I was not ready to be a mother. The words hung between us, fragile but incomplete. Years ago, I would have leaned forward. I would have said it was okay, that I understood, that I forgave her before she even asked. Instead, I nodded once. I can help, I said, calmly, but it will have to be structured. She blinked. Structured? I'll cover the immediate bills, direct payments. I'll speak to your bank if needed. We'll set up something sustainable, clear expectations. I kept my voice steady, professional, the same tone I used in meetings.